Why is Britain so cooked?
That's a big question. It's either that or the system collapses. I'm sorry, this is just the reality of the thing. So Nigel Farage has really stepped on a rake there, thinking I don't need to worry about my right flank. Well, actually you do.
But what's the biggest issue in Britain right now that no one's talking about? Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Daily Expresso with me, JJ Anisiobi, and today's special guest, Carl Benjamin, the host of Lotus Eaters podcast, and also known online as Sargon of Akkad. Have I said that correctly?
That's correct. That's the name of my YouTube channel.
Okay.
So.
Well, Carl, first question. Why is Britain so cooked?
That's a big question that has a lot of threads that you'd need to untangle. I think fundamentally the governing philosophy of the era is one that isn't fit for the current circumstances, and so it presumes the state of the country as it was in, say, 1997, when it was instantiated across the land. And of course, things have changed really dramatically since then. In 1997, the country, England in particular, was probably about 90% English. Wales and Scotland probably would have been somewhere like 97, 98% Welsh and Scottish. And so with a homogeneity of the populace comes a series of unspoken assumptions and a kind of it's kind of like a lubricant when it comes to politics and when it comes to the sort of society and the economy, that when everyone has the same assumptions, they all act in a way that just helps everything move forward. And when you get a rather heterogeneous population, then you find that actually making sure that things are as they're supposed to be is a very difficult job, especially when it comes to, say, law enforcement, which is why everyone thinks we have now a two-tier criminal justice system. But it's the same economically. I mean, for example, if you look at the high streets, you can look at, say, any of the barbers or the vape shops or the Bangladeshi luggage shops and things like this, and you can look at them. You can search them up on Companies House and see, why has this company been dissolved 5 times? Or, this person has dissolved 5 companies and reincorporated them. Well, the answer is to get around paying business rates, to get around filing tax returns. And so you realize, right, that's 5 years of not having to have actually paid all of the taxes that the honest businessman in Britain, who actually believes in the system and thinks the system is legitimate, has had draining the life out of his business like a vampire. And so native businesses struggle to compete. And of course, this means you get a proliferation of, you could call them fake businesses that only deal in cash and will never have any accountability to them. And if something does happen, they're probably a front for some sort of criminal organizing behind the scenes. And if anything does happen to them, well, those people just disappear into the ether, and then another vape shop or a Turkish barbers or whatever pops up. And so when you start thinking, right, okay, what happens when this kind of system that essentially punishes the obedient and rewards the guilty continues? Well, you get a general degradation of your society. And I'm just addressing one thin layer of the problem. We've obviously got like massive underlying financial problems and huge social problems that go unaddressed. And so there's no one solid answer. But the point is, it's a system that relied on a kind of unanimity of thought that was not really well understood at the time. And it only becomes well understood when it starts receding, when you actually realize, oh, what was the thing that we were relying upon? Well, it was the unspoken homogenous assumptions of a population who didn't have to think about themselves. And now we've arrived at a point where we do have to think about all of these things, and we don't really have good answers for anything.
So just with this one strand, are you saying if we got rid of all the vape shops, if the law was changed and said, if you dissolve a business, you can't open another one, essentially, and if you dissolve a business, you've still got to pay taxes on the last 9 months of which you've been trading. If that was happening and the barb shops were gone, the vape shops were gone, the suitcase shops were gone, you think that would make a difference to people's everyday lives? Well,
the towns you lived in would be more normal. They would look something like they looked when I was growing up. I don't know how old you are, but have
a guess.
40?
well, it's a bit too accurate. Someone's obviously told you my age.
No.
41. I don't look 41. No one says look 40. But
the point is, when you were growing up, I bet the high street. I mean, if I don't know where.
But I don't blame that on vape shops. I think that's down to e-commerce. Amazon has destroyed our high streets.
I'm not convinced of that, because there are areas in Britain still where the town centres have not been diversified, where the footfall is still people who use those kinds of shops. And I've seen this, in fact, in Swindon. So in Swindon, the main high street is exactly as modern a high street as you might expect. But in, say, Old Town, a bunch of the shops and businesses operating there are still the shops and businesses that are operating when I met my wife there 20 years ago, something like that now. Nearly 20, probably 20 years ago, because it's the footfall traffic. When you bring in different people, they use different shops and services. So the demand for like nail bars and things like that hasn't gone away. The demand for actual going to a shop and examining clothes and stuff, that actually hasn't gone away. These things can still persist. I think that it's actually it's almost like a convenient, like, oh, okay, if it's Amazon, I don't have to think about it. But it's not just Amazon. It's actually lots of things. But I don't think that the government should say if you dissolve a business, you can't open another one, because that's crazy. There are legitimate reasons for dissolving a business, as in the business has failed. And okay, I tried this, it didn't work. Now I can never try anything else. That'd be terrible. But the problem is the levels of fraud are so deep in the system that you don't. Okay, so we've got some guy called, I don't know, Ali Yusuf or something, who opens a vape shop or a barber shop. Okay, where does he live? Well, he may have given you a false address. He may have given you his cousin's address. He might not actually live there. He might just pop back to Bangladesh or wherever he's from. Wherever, actually tracking these people down is quite a monumental task. And the bureaucracy is just not particularly interested in doing that. Every time a bureaucracy is faced with something that is a challenge, the people in the bureaucracy are not incentivized to go after and conquer challenges. They don't get bonuses for conquering these challenges. So for them, it's just, well, I did what I was, the bare minimum is, say I sent them a letter. Well, I sent him a letter. Well, I don't have to deal with that for 6 months. Okay, 6 months' time, the system pops up, right, nothing happened with this. We'll send him another letter. I'll send an inspector around. Oh, it's an empty house and there was nothing here to start with. Oh, well, what can I do?
Yeah. Right?
And that's because the system itself was designed in mind with a people who would not be trying to game the system. Like, if you've got a homogenous sort of native population, they're like, oh, I want to interact well with the system because I expect to actually profit from my honest gains, from my honest work. But these people are not expecting to profit from honest work.
But then you could look at the PPI scandal. Lots of native people set up businesses and games the system.
But I'm not saying that there's no criminality on one side. What I'm saying is, we can see the nature of the shops that are springing up and occupying the high streets now. So yes, there is obviously criminality in the native population as well, but this is an open avenue of exploitation that is clearly being exploited by people who are not native. And this is just something that has to be dealt with at some point, or the high streets look like they do now, and everyone, I hate them. I don't know, but everyone seems to hate them as far as I can see. So, and this is just one small thing that people interact with on their daily life. Because, you go into town for whatever reason, you need to go to the post office or whatever. You've got to walk past all these shops and you're like, why aren't there people in these vape shops? Why are these Bangladeshi luggage shops always empty? Why? And then why is it I have to get a haircut now from a Turkish barber? Well, because an English barber can't compete because they're paying the business rates. They have to put the costs up. And so and this is just one aspect of, there are so many problems. Like if you think about like the problems that central government has, where it's an ever widening pool that they need to fill with your tax revenue. And so if, normally if you fill up a pool, the pool doesn't keep expanding. So it eventually overflows. No, that we've got the opposite problem, whereas an ever widening pool. And so no matter how much money you pour into it, it's never enough. And so we get rhetoric from the left, like, oh, the NHS is underfunded. And it's like, okay, but if you look at the NHS funding at a time, it is just a straight line upwards. Because it can never be funded. There is no way of doing this, because what we're actually running is an international health service, and we're constantly expanding the number of people in the country. So, okay.
Well, in that case, then it can be funded. We just have to stop people who aren't British citizens using it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people, like young people now, will not believe the boomers' experience of the NHS. Right? They will not believe that you would phone up the doctor and he'd say, "I'll pop round your house this afternoon. How's 3 o'clock?" Right?
Yeah.
You would not believe. I mean, I didn't get that. I'm 46. When we were young, that wasn't what it was like. But you went there, you waited an hour, and then you got seen. And so it's a good service, And in many parts of the country, in the sort of like rural parts of the country, it's actually still quite like that. But God forbid you go to the NHS in the city. I would not want to, If you get wounded, if you get injured, do it in the countryside at the very best. But you are right that this is what we would need to do. But that would require a dramatic shift in the governing ideology of the country. Because at the moment, it's incredibly universalist. It's explicitly universalist. It considers itself essentially the steward of literally every single person who arrives here, because they have to have the same suite of rights that someone who has been here since the recession of the ice sheet, a family that's been here since the recession of the ice sheet needs to have. And so our states are essentially modeling themselves as universal liberal states, while being given a very particular, parochial, small set of resources, national resources to operate on. And so you can see, well, why is the country bleeding out? Well, because they think of themselves in this way. And of course, they're just splurging our money everywhere.
Everything is digital now, isn't it? Your money, your photos, even your loyalty card at the coffee shop. So there's something quietly brilliant about owning one thing that isn't on a screen. Real gold bullion. The weight of it, the shine, it's just a lovely thing to hold. The Pure Gold Company, which was voted the UK's best gold broker, makes owning physical gold really simple. Tax-free gold coins from the Royal Mint with friendly one-to-one guidance from your first question to final delivery. There's no jargon, no pressure, no call centre queues. It's insured to your door or stored in a secure professional vault. So visit the Pure Gold Company today and tell them JJ sent you. So who are you sending back then? Who are we deporting?
I mean, I would suggest the Boris wave, right? The Boris wave would be the first and most obvious set of people to denaturalize, remove ILR from, or prevent from ever getting ILR, and just saying, look, you were brought here undemocratically, what essentially looks like a punishment for Brexit. And so, frankly, you should just return to where you came from. That's the most obvious group of
the
people.
Boris wave. What if someone's come in today as illegal migrants? They should also have to be deported.
I don't think that we need to draw such hard boundaries.
Steve Laws does. His boundary is English and white, not even British. English and white.
So who is Steve Laws?
Steve, well, that's a good question.
He's just some Twitter. He's just some Twitter account.
A Twitter guy, ethno-nationalist.
Right.
Rupert Lowe has said he does not agree with ethno-nationalism at all.
Right.
He wants to stamp it out of Restore.
Okay. Steve Laws, as far as I'm aware, is just a guy with a Twitter account.
Yeah.
And so I'm not very bothered with what Steve Laws says.
Okay.
I'm actually I'm a husband, a father, a business owner. I want sensible governance in this country that actually works for the majority native population, because I mean, really, what is a country if it's not that, right? What's a nation state if it's not that? Drawing out hard ideological prescriptions, I always find is just what people do is essentially playing fantasy football with politics. It's like, oh, yeah, I'd like this person in this thing. I'd like this thing. Okay, but politics is incredibly messy, and you can make a bunch of fancy demands, but I want to talk about what are real practical things that can be done. And actually, reversing the Boris wave is a real practical thing. I mean, essentially, we need to just ensure that people born overseas don't have access to benefits. Right? I don't think I should be able to move to France or Greece or wherever, or anywhere else, and just start claiming benefits from the natives. That is mad. Right? It's just a patently unfair thing. So obviously that's the case. The NHS just can only be free at the point of use for native citizens, for people who can say, no, look, I've got a passport, I'm a citizen, right? And it just can't be free at the point of use for those people, for people who are not like that. And so once you start taking these sorts of actions and then just send the people who were brought in between 2020 and 2025 or whatever dates you want to say, just say, look, I'm afraid your period of time has run out. You're not going to be given indefinite leave to remain. You must leave. You have 6 months or whatever it is. You'll find that millions of people just leave on their own merits because, unfortunately, they are being used like a settler colonial population. But actually, we've got all of the 20th century to tell us how this plays out. And it plays out very poorly if it's not actually accepted that things are going to change. But when it is accepted by the powers that be that things are going to change, these things can operate fairly bloodlessly. I mean, for example, the British withdrawal from India, the partition between India and Pakistan aside, was not terrible, right? I mean, the French leaving Algeria was way worse than the British leaving India, because the British had kind of acquiesced to it. We kind of come to the conclusion, yeah, okay, the time has come where we can just accept that this is the spirit of the age. And as soon as the colonial state withdraws its strength from the region, the settlers just go with it, because they understood that they were being protected by it, especially if you have a large number of hostile natives. And like I said, I'm not trying to encourage anything, but I think that the Southport riots and the stabbing in Edinburgh recently show there is anger, right? There is a lot of anger. And I think a lot of people's patience is wearing thin. And so to prevent anything terrible from happening, I think what we have to do is accept the spirit of the age has changed. And there are some really sensible, non-intrusive administrative things that we could do to reverse the flow of what has happened and make sure that the tribes of Britain, the native tribes, feel that they have this demographic security going forward. And I don't think it's unreasonable for them to ask for that either. That's the problem that they have. Actually saying, well, why should the British be dispossessed of their homeland, their ancient ancestral homelands? Well, what's a good answer to that? I mean, you haven't got one for the Palestinians or for the, for the Ukrainians or anything like that. Why shouldn't that also apply to us? And when framed that way, you realize, okay, what's happening is really unpleasant and really monstrous, especially as the rationale is always, it's for a system. It's like, okay, but we existed before the system and will exist after the system. Yeah. And if the system can't maintain itself, then that's the system's problem, and we will find a new accommodation for whatever the system was trying to solve. Like, for example, they'll talk about healthcare and pensions. So, okay, well, how did we do it before? No, we looked after our own grandparents. Yeah. We had charities that would donate, rich people could donate money to make sure that poor people could have healthcare or food or whatever it is. Okay, well, maybe we have to return to a charitable model if this 20th century model doesn't work.
What happened to rich people building things for the public?
Great question.
Parks, museums, new hospital wings. That was all like rich people. My old boss, Richard Desmond, who used to own OK Magazine in Channel 5. He loved having his name splashed on everything. He's got a wing of an ear specialist in Old Street. They don't do it anymore. Why has Elon Musk not got the Musk Museum of the Future?
You know what? They do in America. Like, for example, in San Francisco, it's the Zuckerberg Hospital you'll go to. And I learned this when I went to San Francisco. I was like,
do you have to log in with your Facebook account?
I have no idea. Luckily enough, I didn't have to go. Because, my God, who wants to... Because fundamentally, I think the NHS is actually a good idea. I do like the idea of the NHS. I don't personally... in Swindon, we've got the Mechanics Institute, which is the sort of incipient origin of the NHS, and it's just falling into rack and ruin. And I look at it and think, well, it's a beautiful building, and that's a terrible shame, because actually that is one of the worthy pieces of our heritage is the feeling that, oh no, okay, we do want a society that isn't just a sort of barbarous wasteland if you're not very wealthy. Right? Yeah. I don't want that. I've got lots of family who are not wealthy, and I'm not wealthy, and I'm doing better than most of them, I suppose. But like it, I don't want the feeling of like being on your own while in society. It's nice to have these things, but we've got to be realistic about how to have these things. Yeah. And if the pensions are going to ruin us, wasn't it the other day we found out that more people receive benefits than pay taxes? Yeah. That is unsustainable.
Yeah, we're paying out more in benefits than we are getting through taxes.
Yeah, that just can't be sustained. So we've got to look at this with clear-eyed realism and accept, well, some people's quality of life is just going to have to go down. And if those people are pensioners and disabled people, well, I'm sorry, but it's either that or the system collapses. So you can either... I'm sorry, this is just the reality of the thing.
Rather than punishing the pensioners and the disabled, we should be saying to people who aren't working, we're stopping your benefits, and that benefit is only going to go to the pensioners and the elderly. It's not going to go to you people who aren't working anymore because you've got a back problem or your mental health can't take 5 days a week in the office.
The problem with that, though, is that the numbers are kind of in, and whilst that will slow the problem, we're still on the decline and we'll still arrive at that point. We may have kicked it back 20 years or something. there are other arrangements that we can have. There are other settlements that we can come to. And at the end of the day, though, I mean, really, you're not wrong that it's a harsh choice that has to be made. But the question is, well, what are the promises that were made and why did they arrive at this position? For example, we've got a distinctly kind of anti-natalist culture, right? We've got a culture that doesn't, when I was a kid, every public space was focused around children.
Yeah.
Right? Children were actually, it was expected that, you know, because all the boomers had kids, they had 2 kids, but all the boomers had kids. And okay, you went out somewhere, the kids go and play in the play area, and the parents sit around and smoke cigarettes indoors, right? And drink alcohol at 3 in the afternoon. But the point is, the civilization was at least focused around children. Well, if you go into a McDonald's now,
there's not many McDonald's with play areas anymore.
right?
Yeah.
You feel like you are on a conveyor belt. They want to get you in, get your food, get you out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It is just purely for efficiencies. Okay, but what does that tell the people who are using it? And what that tells them is, well, you're just an interchangeable cog in a machine. Now go back to your 1-bedroom flat that's incredibly hot because you're not allowed AC, and just sit there stifling until tomorrow when you're going to go out and do your delivery job or do your office job, whatever it is. This isn't about you building a life. This is about you supporting someone else's pensions or supporting immigrant benefits or supporting the NHS. And so we've got to really re-examine, like, what are we trying to get out of our lives? And historically, it was to be the head of a household. So you had a family, you had kids, you had a wife, kids, and you would look after your parents, and then your children would look after you. And we were on this sort of great chain of being. Well, everything about the modern state is designed to intercede in that. Right, we're literally trying to ruin these things. I mean, what was the thing that came out the other day? Whereas cohabiting couples, was it not even cohabiting? Maybe, I don't know. It was boyfriends and girlfriends that would split assets as if they were married. It's like, are you mad? Like, are you actually mad? Like, this is like, if you want men to never have relationships with women, oh, brilliant, put that on the table. But I don't think that's actually good. That's only good if you've got this really quite nihilistic, well, we only wanted the civilization to exist until 2060 anyway. So, you know, like that, by that point, we'll all be gone.
But I think modern media and the portrayal of women is partly to blame for that as well. That women are being told, you don't need to have a family. You should get a job. You can have everything you want. You don't need a man. You can just be your own woman, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. They're not being told, actually, there's a lot of fulfilling things about being married and having children and having a family unit. That message is gone now.
Well, the thing is, right, it goes a bit further than that, doesn't it? Because there are, again, uncomfortable truths that have to be said about what is the role of women in society. And the answer is to give birth to the next generation, right?
Is that their own
role? It
role?
Absolutely is, because otherwise there isn't a next generation.
Well, yeah, but then the same could be for men. That's like saying the only role for a man is to impregnate a woman.
Well, provide. That's what a man's role actually historically is.
In my house, my wife provides as well. That look of disdain of like, are you a real man then, JJ?
I'm sorry to hear it, mate, you know. Now, again, I'm not suggesting there should be like some sort of hard and fast ideological prescription, right? But the general tone of our civilization is, no, women should have top jobs as much as men. I mean, the current call is to have a 50-50 parliament under Andy Burnham.
Yeah,
right?
50-50 cabinet, which is nuts. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, 50-50 cabinet, sorry, under Andy Burnham. And it's not that it's nuts from the position of, the goal is to liberate women from their civilizational duty. That's normal. That's exactly what you do if that's what you're trying to do. But that obviously means they're not going to be doing their civilizational duty, which is giving birth to the next generation, right? And okay, well, you know, we've all carried these civilizational duties. Men have got civilizational duties too, and they're still expected to do that. I mean, that's what making your girlfriend take half of your assets is about. It's providing. Your civilizational duty is to provide.
Yeah.
I mean, like I don't spend a lot of my own money on myself. I spend it all on my wife and kids. I accept it, you know, but that's fine. That's the point.
Carl, you got to change your wife, mate, because my wife spends most of her money on me, and I spend most of my money on alcohol. So it's a great balance.
I don't know. I'm a very happy man. I'm a very happy man.
Well, this is another big question for you, and I apologize for how.
Before we go on there,
okay.
This It is about setting the expectations of what we expect to get out of life, though.
Mhm.
And there are certain things that are like the infrastructure of civilization, and men and women getting married and having children is actually the infrastructure. That is the base of civilization. Without
Okay.
that, actually, we don't have a civilization in future.
Mhm.
So that has to be. We have to understand that as being what we're going to do with our lives, and then other things come after that.
Mhm.
Because otherwise there's just no future for the civilization. And that's, again, one of these hard realities that we really have trouble with admitting in the modern era. But sorry.
Oh, I was going to say another big question that you're going to be like, how am I going to answer that question? But what's the biggest issue in Britain right now that no one's talking about? Yeah, sorry about that, mate.
That no one's talking about.
When I say no one, I don't mean people like you
I
and
know
me.
what you mean.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's the women's goal in life. I genuinely think it's the women's goal in life. Because it's like, can you imagine me raising that point on The View or something like that, or Loose Women?
Impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I'd get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that actually at the bedrock of civilization is men and women getting together and having families. Right? And women's revealed preferences are, I'd like a man who is taller than me, stronger than me, more intelligent than me, and earns more than me. Right? Their preferences haven't equalized in line with the modern philosophy that's trying to make them equal. And so as women are earning more, they're finding fewer and fewer men that they actually want as husbands.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, we need to have a talk about the incentives and the expectations that you have out of life, because there are consequences to all of these systems. And it's going to be a difficult conversation. I'm not saying that anyone should be like, Handmaid's Tale or anything like this, but just collectively, what do we want? And I don't think many people are actually getting what they want, even though we're in a system that's designed to give us everything we could ever possibly have desired.
Yeah.
I don't think we're getting that. And so there are some seriously difficult conversations that we have to have about what the expectations of us are. But fundamentally, this begins with accepting the differentiation of people. We're not just these atomic, universalized humans who can be plugged into a system and expected to work for 40 years and then get a pension and blah, blah, blah. No, actually, men are men, women are women, children are children. Everyone's different and has different appropriate roles and places. And this was how society worked forever. And modern society is now crazy, basically.
Well, let's move on to Restore.
Sure.
Because they're still...
By the way, I was all speaking entirely in a personal capacity. None of that's policy, as far as I'm aware.
Gotcha.
But maybe one day it will be, but I'm joking.
They're a relatively new party still. It does feel like they've been around for a lot longer than they have been.
It does, doesn't it?
It's quite the impact they've had. In Makerfield, they pulled in 6.8%.
Not bad.
Which is not bad at all for such a new party. Why do you think people are voting Restore?
I think Restore represents a revolt against the system entirely. I think it represents, because the problem with reform is it's in the name. We accept the system, but we want to change it. And the Conservative and Labour parties are the system. And so you can see why Farage kind of gels together with these Conservatives that he's taken into his party. But Rupert Lowe has very clearly positioned Restore on the outside of this consensus and is acting in a kind of Cromwellian manner to attack the thing in total. And so this is why I think it's drawn such... I mean, I saw a poll the other day that had it on 6% nationally, which is, again, 4 months old. That's really remarkable. So who knows what happens? But I think this sense of, no, the entire system is the problem and the entire thing needs to be junked. I mean, almost everything from... I mean, you could go back all the way through the 20th century and find pernicious legislation that actually, when you look at it in the light of history, you realize, oh, this was not wise. I mean, the people at the time probably thought, oh, well, we'll just do this thing because it seems fine. But actually, it has knock-on effects that 30 or 40 years down the line, you realize, right, okay, this just wasn't a way to solve that problem in the long term. And then so much from 1997 onwards. Like, Tony Blair is basically engaging in a slow-motion French Revolution in Britain. And this is not good because Britain is not actually a very ideological country, and it's not really a very revolutionary country. I mean, we haven't had a civil war for 400 years, right? So it's not something that people want, but it's clear that the system as it is now, this kind of top-down managerial imposed system, is not the traditional way that people think the country should be run. And it's clearly there are problems with it, right? There's a conceit that underpins it that is, well, if we have sufficient data, then we can manage everything. So, well, yeah, but your data's terrible. And I'm not even sure you understand what human nature is really like, because actually, I don't really want to be managed. I want to be left alone. I want my taxes minimal, and I want the potholes filled.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I really want. You know?
Yeah.
I don't actually want whatever you're trying to, we've got human rights that we need to. No, I don't care about any of that. I just want life not to be awful.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And so I think Restore represents this kind of revolutionary right-wing assault from the right to push the entire system into the sea, basically.
So what do you say to people who, and I hear this all the time, I get the comments from our viewers and our listeners saying, well, if you vote Restore, you're going to stop Reform from getting into power at the next general election, and then we're going to have more Starmer, or now it's going to be more Burnham. What do you say to those people?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, well, what's your evidence for this, right? Because, I mean, it didn't happen in Makerfield, did it? So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, it didn't happen in Gorton and Denton. There were a couple of other by-elections that didn't happen in, so I don't know what the evidence for that is. But secondly, it assumes that it's the same pool of voters, and I'm not sure that it is. 40% of people in the last general elections didn't vote. 40%. That's almost half the country is just checked out of politics. I mean, there was a YouGov poll that came out a couple of days ago. They just asked, well, do you think things are going to change under Andy Burnham? And the biggest chunk by a huge mile, 44%, was no, it's just going to be the same. 17% thought it would get better. 21% thought it would get worse. But by a huge margin, most people are just like, this, nothing can change. And so to elect Nigel Farage, who himself is clearly not a revolutionary. And the thing is, I oppose Nigel Farage politically because I support Restore and not Reform. But in many ways, I'm not even necessarily unsympathetic to Farage in the perspective that he had when this all began. Like, so if you think about the sort of Brexit era, where he was essentially the Brexit Party, a kind of proto-Reform party, which then has morphed into Reform. It's not that he understands. He labours under the belief that the system maybe could be saved if just more sensible conclusions were reached. But the problem is the conclusions are kind of baked into the system. And one of the reasons I think people don't think Andy Burnham will change anything substantially is because the system is on a set of rails. And Starmer was complaining about this, saying, I pull a lever and nothing happens. It's like, this is your system. You love this system. The system loves you as well. You are absolutely, human rights lawyer. That's what the system is for.
Yeah.
So why aren't you getting the results out of the system that you expected? And so I think everyone can see this system is a problem. And so with all the goodwill in the world, I don't think Farage could change the system without essentially taking control of Parliament with 350 absolute patriots and just saying that we're going to repeal it all of it. We're repealing the devolution, we're repealing the Supreme Court, we're repealing various acts that were, Tony Blair legislated like a demon. Like, people forget, he was passing hundreds and hundreds of pieces of legislation over the course of his premiership, like every month, it was something like 2 or 3 a day he was passing at the peak. And so it's just like, right, okay, he had a plan to change the country into something it wasn't, and now we're in the ruins of that. And everyone's like, wow, this is terrible. This is rubbish. So that just needs to go. We need to go back to the settlement that we had prior to these things, and then look with clear eyes at what do we have, what are the problems, and what will actually fix it without trying to squeeze Britain into this kind of French revolutionary mold. And, for example, the question of things like separation of powers. Like, what does a Supreme Court mean in Britain? Like, it makes sense if you have a written constitution that, okay, we've got the executive and you've got the judiciary, the legislative, sorry, and they're going to have a back and forth, like with Trump now with the birthright citizenship. It goes to the Supreme Court and they make a ruling on the Constitution. Right, yeah, they've interpreted the Constitution. Okay, we don't have that. Why have we got a Supreme Court? It's not a separate power. All power flows from the king in this country. So, it's the king, the crown courts. What are we doing? And it's, you can see how we're trying to mimic these things from overseas, and these things don't make sense in our settlement.
Do you honestly believe that if there's a general election tomorrow, Rupert Lowe's going to have...
Well, not tomorrow, no.
So how long do you guys need then in order to have a real chance? Because I think it's far-fetched to believe that Rupert Lowe would be Prime Minister.
Sure, but if you go back, say, 2.5 years, it was far-fetched to think Farage would be Prime Minister, right?
Correct. Very good point.
Reform were dallying around on like 2 or 3% under Tice.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, that's no slight against Tice. It's just the nature of things. But when an idea's time has come, things move very, very quickly. And you saw Nigel Farage rocket up he peaked at about 31% in the average of polls. And now he's down to about 25%, which isn't great, actually, for Nigel. He should probably be around 40% at this point. But when an idea... the idea's time has come. Actually, things can change very quickly because all it takes is for people to decide. Because people have this view of the electorate as if it's some sort of solid mass. Like I saw Jacob Rees-Mogg describe it in a podcast. He's saying, no, there's the Tory vote, there's the Lib Dem vote, there's the Reform vote. It's like, okay, but the Reform vote didn't exist 2 years ago, Jacob. That's not how the electorate actually is. The electorate is actually made up of people who are looking at what their options are and thinking, those look bad.
Yeah.
And then if Nigel Farage goes, right, okay, I'm going to lead the revolution, guys. Oh, brilliant. I can vote for that suddenly.
Yeah.
Or I can vote for the Greens. And this is what Zach Polanski's recent peak was about. I mean, that's declining now as well now. But
you're completely right there because at the last general election, people voted for Labour because they were sick of the Tories. People didn't vote for Labour because they loved Labour and they thought Starmer was going to save the country. It was, these guys can't be any worse than what we've just had for 14 years.
You know what? I'm not convinced by the narrative.
I am right. This is my show.
I apologise. It's the popular narrative in the Labour Party because it gives them some sort of agency over their own victory. But I'm not sure that's what happened at all. I think what happened is that people were still going to vote Conservative because the Labour Party has never really been that popular. And Nigel Farage came in and knocked their legs out. That's what I think happened at the last election. I think if you go back and look at it, you will see there are seats that Labour won that they obviously shouldn't have won. It's just that there was a vote split in 2024 where Reform, and I'm not judging Nigel Farage for this at all. If you lead a party, it's your prerogative to run in elections, stand in elections. And it's absolutely your prerogative to say, no, we're going to try and win as much of the vote share as we can. And this is why, for example, Keir Starmer won fewer votes than Jeremy Corbyn in 2017. Yeah. And everyone hated Jeremy Corbyn. Like, Keir Starmer wasn't popular, but like he wasn't hated like Corbyn was. He hadn't had the opportunity to be terrible yet. So there's no great Labour victory here. What it is an accidental victory because there's infighting on the right. And there's still infighting on the right.
Yeah.
There's even more, in fact, infighting on the right. And hopefully by 2029, something gets settled.
You think Reform and Restore can ever have a coalition? Because certainly on the left-hand side, I can see it being Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens in some loose coalition to keep Restore and Reform out. But you don't think Reform and Restore could, and I say Restore and Reform, it's really Lowe and Farage.
Yeah, it is.
Can they put their differences aside and bring themselves together?
No, I think it would require Farage to apologise to Lowe. I can't ever imagine that happening.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever apologised to anyone publicly. So I can't see it happening. So, I mean, obviously...
But you're a good negotiator. You seem quite the diplomat. You could get those two in a room and have them thrash it out.
I mean, I'd do my best, but I think that it would require Farage to admit he'd made a mistake because I think that he did lie. Him and Zia Youssef did lie to the police as a pretext to kick Rupert Lowe out because, I mean, Nigel Farage, I can't remember what press conference it was now, but he did say, well, he had said we should be deporting the families of the grooming gangs as well, and that was too far, and that's just what happens, or something along those lines. And that's just an admission that, no, it's because Rupert Lowe was like the right wing of Reform and was dragging him to the right, and he wasn't comfortable with that, and so he wanted to get rid of him. Okay, but I mean, if you look now, Rupert Lowe is still dragging Nigel Farage to the right. Yeah. It's just now he's in competition with Nigel Farage. And again, he's at 6% of the polls. Nigel's down to 25% of the polls. If that had been combined, that would be a commanding lead.
Absolutely.
And actually might allow them to form a majority. So Nigel Farage has really stepped on a rake there, thinking, I don't need to worry about my right flank. Well, actually, you do. In the same way that Keir Starmer and the Greens. Yeah. He kicked out Corbyn. All the Corbynistas have gone to the Greens. Oh, no, you've got a threat on your left flank. Because people have got to remember that the left and right are coalitions. They're big tents. And I mean, Tony Blair actually understood this really well. He always just said no to his radicals. He just said, no, I'm not going to accept the radicals on the left. But he didn't do what Keir Starmer did and kick them out. Keir Starmer, not being the politician that Tony Blair was like, oh, I need to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn because he's a threat to me. And Keir Starmer was an absolute worm coming up as well. Like, oh no, I support Jeremy Corbyn. No, out. out. I mean, he was going to kick
Yeah.
out Diane Abbott. Like, I've got no love for Diane Abbott. But
Yeah.
come on, she's a part of the furniture.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You know, like, that's a horror. She's a little old lady at this point, kid.
Yeah.
Stop being mean. You know. But the point is, Nigel Farage made the same mistake Keir Starmer made. You can't, you know, your radical flank is going to pull you in one direction or another, whether you're on the left or the right, whether you like it or not. So it would be better to have it working with you in your, you know, dragging you further forward rather than dragging you off to the side.
Yeah.
And they've both made mistakes here. And I don't think Farage is a big enough man to mend that wound. So basically, we're going to have to try and beat them.
Okay. Do me a favour. I don't think you've had a terrible time on this podcast, have
No,
you?
it's been great.
Well, tell Rupert Lowe, will you? And tell him to come on here next time as
I
well.
can ask him.
Right, fantastic. Don't ask him, tell him.
Oh, hey, you know, he's the party leader. I'm not gonna go after him or anything.
We're going to end on a quick fire round, okay?
Yep.
So, first thing that comes into your head when I say these words. Nigel Farage.
Boring.
Rupert Lowe.
Exciting.
Zach Polanski.
Comical.
Andrew Gold.
He's a friend.
Kemi Badenoch.
Imposter.
The newsagents.
Anachronistic.
Rest is politics.
Oh God, how would I describe them? A ship of fools.
And the BBC.
Legacy Imperial Institution.
Homer's Odyssey.
One of the great works of the Western canon.
See, I thought you were going to say Lotus Eaters.
Well, that's from the Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly. And that's your name of your podcast. I teed you up there, but you've wasted it.
Oh, yeah, I should have. Yeah, right. Yeah, I should. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Carl Benjamin, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really
My
appreciate it. Hope you have enjoyed that special episode of the Daily Expresso. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit the hype button. See you next time. Bye-bye. Right, a quick pause in the podcast to tell you about our sponsor, Incogni. You had those phone calls from numbers you don't recognize, or you go in your inbox and there's emails for stuff you did not sign up for. Well, that's because someone somewhere is selling your private information. That's where today's sponsor comes in, Incogni. They will contact these people who have been taking your information and they'll say, oi, stop, delete it. Go to the website, incogni.com. You type in the details. 2 minutes later, Incogni are sorting it out for you automatically. And because I love you, I've got you a discount. It ain't 10%, it ain't 20, 60% off. 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Just go to incogni.com/Daily Expresso or click the link in the episode description box below.